Hi everyone, welcome to the call. We are going to give it just a minute and then we're going to kick off quite promptly, just because we have got quite an action-packed agenda to kind of cram a lot of content in. So we'll give it another minute and then we will kick off the call. Oh, and just so everyone knows, we are recording this call. That started off at the top of the call. Just getting everyone joining now. So, as I said, we're a minute in, we've got an action-packed agenda. So whilst everyone's starting to join in, I'm going to share my screen and we can start to kick off this session. Can someone just from the team just confirm that my screen is coming through now and we're all good to go?
Yeah, I can see that, Sarah.
Perfect. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. What we're really going to be focusing in on is ITSM, specifically ServiceTeam. We've got the Provance team here to come and talk through their kind of solution and offering. But I guess that the key part of this session is really Dawn, who's here to come and talk to us a little bit around the journey that the City of London and City of London Police have been on, and their decision to kind of move away from an ITSM solution to ServiceTeam, and a little bit around their journey, their thought processes, the lessons learned, and why they decided to kind of make that move. So with that in mind, what I will do is I get everyone to kind of introduce themselves as they kind of come into their sections. But just so you're all aware, so my name is Sarah. I'm one of the solution specialists that works at Microsoft. So if you have any questions kind of following up off the back of this call, please feel free just to reach out to me. Very happy to kind of support in any way that I can. So with that, as I said, action-packed agenda, and we're going to try our best to try and keep to the timings. I realise I've got a minute left to stick to my section. So we've done our kind of welcome. Introductions will happen as we kind of go through the session. Then we've got the wonderful Dawn coming in to talk a little bit around the City of London journey, and their decision making around moving to an ITSM solution built on top of the Power Platform. We'll then allow for 5 minutes for Dawn for any kind of specific questions that you might have, but please feel free just to throw them in the chat window if they come up as well. We'll kind of make sure we answer them as we go through. We'll then hand over to the Provance team. We're going to talk a little bit around their solution ServiceTeam and a little bit around into the detail around what their solution looks like. And also we'll be getting a bit of a live demo. And then finally, we'll save 5 minutes at the end just to do a quick wrap up and close out. And again, if you have any more questions for Dawn as well, you can kind of ask them there at the very end. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Dawn, who's going to kick off the session today.
Thanks, Sarah. So hi, everyone. My name is Dawn Polaine. So I'm the Service Delivery Manager working for the City of London and the City of London Police. So my first slide is the agenda. So I'm going to start off by just taking you through a bit of the background. So where we came from and why we made decisions to go to another ITSM tool other than the one we were using. And then we're going to cover off a bit about what we had to think about in terms of our end users and their enhanced experience with the new tool. And then also our resolvers, so what they were looking for with an ITSM tool, which would help them to perform their daily functions, essentially. Next slide, please, Sarah. Okay, so whistle-stop tour of the background. So we were originally working with a managed service provider. We've been working with them since 2013, and they provided the vast majority of our IT services, and those services included the service desk as well as the ITSM tool. So when we decided to look at our contract renewal negotiations, we stipulated that all of our potential suppliers should be using or should be looking to adopt an ITSM tool, which was positioned on the Gartner Magic Quadrant. We were really keen that we went with a tool set which was recognised and proven in the marketplace, and we wanted to benefit from the experience of other adopters of that tool. Once we went through our contract negotiations, our winning supplier did agree to implement ServiceNow, and that tool was actually our favoured tool anyway, so that worked for us immensely. And we worked with the supplier to develop the tool along with the third party that they recruited. And the idea was that it would be developed in line with the needs of City of London and the City of London Police. But they also were looking to use ServiceNow with their other existing customers, because obviously, clearly, it had to be cost effective for them as well. So we were aware that we were going to be sharing the tool set with other customers. So we commenced on our journey. We were working with a supplier regarding the development of ServiceNow. But after a period of time, and it was quite a relatively short period of time, we discovered that the limitations of sharing that tool with other customers were really restrictive. So essentially, whenever we wanted to make a change which was going to benefit our end users or our resolvers, we were found that we were kind of hamstrung with that, because any change that we wanted to implement would also impact other customers. So after consideration, we found that that was quite restrictive. So we decided to then start to look at other ITSM tool sets on the market, and effectively one that we could manage and own in-house, and therefore be responsible for the changes and be able to implement the changes as and when they came up. So that's a bit of background. So next slide, please, Sarah. So off we went to market. So we looked at various products within the market, what they could provide for us. Key factors for us were flexibility. So as I mentioned before, we were really keen that we were able to adapt that tool set for our own needs and not be restricted by other customers or any other restrictions which might come along with that tool set. Clearly, for the City of London Police, security was a huge factor. So we had to be assured that there was data security built into the tool, because the way we operate, people, users of the City of London Police have to be security cleared. So therefore, their data can only be seen by those security cleared personnel. And we needed to make sure that non-security cleared personnel weren't able to see that data. So that was a really key factor for us. And obviously cost. I mean, cost is always going to come into play, so that was key for us as well. We were really keen that it had the ability to expand if we wanted it to. So essentially, we had been using Snow for license management, and we were keen that possibly in the future we could move away from Snow, possibly save financially through releasing Snow and then using ServiceTeam for license management as well. So that was one factor, but we were keen that we were able to use the tool to do many other things. And obviously, we also had to ensure that it could accommodate all of the other ITIL processes, so change, problem, major incident, etc. We didn't want to have to be using different tool sets to be able to be ITIL compliant. So those were the key factors for us. So after, say, after much kind of consideration, we worked with Microsoft and Provance, and we decided that that was the best solution for us. The ServiceTeam was going to work for us best in terms of our requirements. So we commenced work on a proof of concept, and that work began in June 2022. And we worked collaboratively with Provance in September. And then we actually went live in February of the following year. So it was very, very rapid for us. We were keen that we move forward quite quickly. So because we went through it quickly, we decided to go live with a minimal viable product. So it basically had all of what we wanted it to have. And as I said, and it had the ability to expand further down the line if you wanted to. Next slide, please, Sarah. Okay, so the key considerations for us from an end user point of view was that we'd obviously recently implemented ServiceNow. And from a user perspective, we were really keen that it just didn't look as if we'd kind of moved to one tool and within a very short period of time, we've completely changed everything and gone to another tool. So we really wanted to make sure that visually this was a smooth transition between the two products. We'd kind of pushed our users to start to use the portal of ServiceNow more so than they had been in the past. So we were kind of trying to remove that reliance from the service desk. So we were really keen that we kept that momentum going. So it was really key for us that visually both products looked fairly similar from a user point of view. In line with that, we wanted to absolutely promote shift left. So we wanted to encourage our users to use the service catalogue rather than, as we say, calling the service desk, emailing the service desk. We wanted the service catalogue to be really comprehensive so they could go there, be self-sufficient and choose any requests that they wanted to. And then we also wanted to develop an application catalogue. So we didn't have this with ServiceNow, but we were really keen that for users to be able to choose any applications that they want, they could again simply go to the catalogue and choose whichever application they wanted, as long as it was obviously pre-packaged. And then we also wanted to include a knowledge management database. So we had that to a certain extent with ServiceNow, but that was one of the factors we felt we were quite restricted on using with ServiceNow, because clearly we were quite reliant on the tool being used by other customers. So we absolutely wanted to include a knowledge management database, which would have all of the information there to help users to be self-sufficient. And again, along that same vein, taking away that reliance on the service desk, we wanted to make sure that the portal could promote or could provide information about the service itself. So outages that we might be experiencing, any news that's happening within our IT department, any advisories, patching, that kind of thing. We wanted all that to be within the portal. So effectively, it's a one-stop shop for our users. We wanted them to be able to go to the portal to get case updates. So again, rather than calling the service desk, go to the portal, find out what's happening with your ticket, your case, progress updates. Again, all through the portal, removing that need to constantly call the service desk. And then also we were kind of looking for a way to auto route our tickets. So previously, what would happen is somebody would raise a case. The case would go to the service desk. The service desk would review the case. They'd decide which was the most appropriate resolver group to work on that case or that ticket. So sometimes, based on the service or the type of outage, it should be quite simple to route that ticket direct to a resolver group. So we were keen that we could build in that functionality, again, to try and remove the reliance from the service desk. Obviously, if we can do that, we can reduce the number of agents, and obviously that becomes more cost effective going forward. Management information. Again, with ServiceNow, we struggled to encourage our users to use the service catalogue, and they tended to use the non-standard service request option quite frequently. So this was it didn't help us with our reporting. If we wanted to see how many standard service requests were being used, we had to sort of trawl through the non-standard service requests to find the common standard service requests. So we kind of wanted to have the ability to manipulate that management information to look at non-standard service requests. And if we are seeing some of those which are quite similar in nature, then that would enable us to create a standard service request and therefore enter it into the catalogue and create a more streamlined user experience and speed up the actual fulfillment of that request. Responsiveness, we actually really wanted to make this tool a collaborative tool with our users. So we really wanted to roll it out, to go live, and then to encourage them to give us their feedback. Because we were managing the tool in-house, based on that feedback, we could make improvements. And then we could actually show that, yes, we are listening to our customer base and things they're asking us to do, we are implementing. So it's kind of encouraging that whole collaborative, sorry, I can't say the word, you know what I mean? That whole collaboration with our end users. And then again, I've mentioned, obviously, security. This was absolutely key for us. We needed to make sure that all of our data was secured so that police data could not be viewed by non-clear personnel. absolutely key for us. So having taken all of that into consideration, this is what we came up with in terms of our design for our portal. So this is what our end users see. They when they go in, this is the basic screen they see from the outset. As I mentioned, we wanted to make it really simplistic. We found previously it was quite complicated for users to use a portal, and if they find it too complicated, then they're going to call the service desk instead. So we absolutely wanted to make it simple. So as you can see, we've just got incident, request, knowledge management database. You can search for any of your tickets from within that front page. And as you can see at the bottom, we've got announcements. So we can go in, we can add advisories, we can add news information, and we can add outage information, all was on that one page. And we are looking to develop that and move that forward. But again, I really am keen we don't move away from keeping it simple, keeping it straightforward, because that actually has gone down really well with our users. Next slide, please, Sarah. So then we're on to our resolver experience. So again, as well as listening to our users, we also listen to our resolver groups, and we wanted to make it easy for them to use the tool set as much as it was a nice experience for our users. So ticket management with ServiceNow, it was quite cumbersome for our resolvers. For anyone that's used ServiceNow, you have a CS reference, which is kind of like the overall ticket number, if you like, and then within that you get a written and an INC. And having all those different naming conventions was quite an annoyance for our resolvers. So we really wanted to make sure that the ticket management was simplified. We wanted to make sure that all of the information pertaining to that ticket was on a single form. So they would go into that form, they would see everything about that ticket, and they didn't have to keep clicking all over the place to find out more information. Absolutely key. We wanted to keep it straightforward for them. And then we also wanted to make sure that our resolvers would be keenly aware of the KPIs that are assigned to that ticket. So absolutely wanted to make sure that the priorities, the SLAs, was all on that front screen, constantly visible to them. So they're absolutely aware of what timelines they're working to in terms of responding to and resolving a ticket. And then finally, we wanted to look at automated prioritization. So based on the impact and the urgency, we wanted the tool to be able to create the priority of that ticket. And we've achieved that as well. Communication, we wanted everything to be in the tool. So we didn't want email communication to be outside of the tool. We wanted everything that concerns a ticket in the tool to be retained by that ticket. And then we've got a full audit trail if we need to go back to look at the ticket information or to do some research. That was key for us. And then we also wanted, as I've mentioned before, like the same theme keeps coming back, we wanted to be able to customize the tool set to make it work for our resolvers. So with ServiceTeam, you get an out-of-the-box view, but we wanted to be able to adapt that to make it work for us, for our resolvers and for our end users ultimately. Obviously, it needed to be ITIL friendly. As I mentioned before, we had to make sure that all of the ITIL processes could be managed within the same tool set, whether that be problem, change, major incident. And reporting. So reporting was a problem for us previously. We really wanted to be able to demonstrate real-time dashboards for our resolvers. So we wanted them to be able to go into the tool, look at their resolver group, for instance, see how they're performing against an SLA at any time during the month. And then that would enable them to kind of manage expectations and to manage their performance throughout the month. So there's no shocks come the end of the month when we're doing our performance reporting. And to help them to do that, we wanted them to be able to create their own reports. Previously, we were relying upon a small number of people who we had to ask to create reports for us with our old tool set. Now, the resolvers can create their own reports based on their requirements, which has been a great help for us. And then finally, continuing improvement. As I've mentioned before, we absolutely wanted to listen to our resolver groups. they're the guys that use the tool. We wanted to understand how they felt it was working for them, if they felt there was any enhancements or changes that they felt would help them in their day-to-day. So absolutely, we totally wanted to be able to adapt and improve the tool going forward. Next slide, please, Sarah. So this is our the screen that most resolvers get to see when they go into what we call the back end. So as you can see, this is just it's active tickets is a view. So it gives them all the information about all of the tickets that are open at the moment across their organisation they belong to. However, it's key that they can actually change this view based on what they want to see. So this is obviously a flat screen, but where you can see active tickets top left, that's a drop down, and you can get many different views which show you anything that you want to see, and you can design those views yourself. So for instance, it could be views for my teams, so active tickets for my teams, or tickets which are approaching an SLA breach for my team, or anything you can think of, you can create a view based on that requirement. So that was absolutely key for us. As I mentioned before, our users or our resolvers, we really wanted to be able to give them all of the information that they would need to provide a good service to our end users at their fingertips, and the tool absolutely gives that for them, which has been great. And then this screen, this is the screen that you go to if you're actually going into a ticket. And as you can see there, that front summary screen gives you all the information about that ticket. So who raised it, what the status is, whether it's on hold, whether it's in progress, the state of the SLAs, so where we are in terms of our response SLA, where we are in terms of our resolution, and then the description at the bottom. And then as you go across you've got summary activities, that's where you can drill down a bit more and to see more about that particular ticket. But from the outset, that was literally, that's a snapshot of everything to do with that ticket. You can see the priority, you can see who owns it, what team has it, and so on. So that was really, really key for us. And next slide, Sarah. So that's where we kind of got to at the moment. So we've released the tool. We've been working with it. We've been developing it. We have a schedule of releases. At the moment, we're working on, we do sort of sprints every 4 to 6 weeks based on the enhancements that people have asked us to implement, whether that be user or resolver. We tend to have a list of all of those enhancements. We gather them, we work through them, we prioritize them, and then we base them or schedule them for a release. So that's been happening since we've gone live, and it's something we're continuing to do. And it's really key that I'm able to demonstrate to our users that this is a tool that we are continually evolving and adapting based on their needs, which has been absolutely brilliant. It's been well received by our users. It's been great. So we can actually, they can tangibly see what we're doing to improve the tool. So we're not using the tool yet for change and problem. So as I said, we went with a minimal viable product, but that is actually our roadmap. We're going to look to do that probably in the next few months. We're also going to look to implement escalation management within the tool. So by ticket, we want the users to be able to escalate to various levels. We've got 3 levels of escalation within the tool. We use 3 levels of escalation, and we want to be able to implement that within the tool. And the user can then see, after 24 hours, they can go to start with level 1, 24 hours, level 2, and then level 3. And they get updates, email responses, and so on regarding that escalation. So that's coming soon. The knowledge management database, again, we didn't go live with that. That's coming along soon as well. So we're looking at our articles now, and we're really keen that the knowledge management database isn't just a flat database. I really kind of want it to be interactive. So it's kind of got lots of stuff in there that isn't just kind of reading a text or an article. I kind of really want it to be more interactive with our users. CMDB, we've got some data in there. Again, that's something we're looking to develop, and we're looking to integrate with other suppliers as well. So for instance, we've got a network provider. Obviously, they've got their own CMDB, and we're really keen that we integrate those 2 tool sets together. The service status view, we've actually gone live with that now. So that is basically on the portal screen you saw, we've now got another menu item which users can click into, and they can see the status of all of our key critical apps and services, whether they be operational, major outage, or a degraded service. And that is maintained by our service desk, and they can put updates in there to see how we're getting on with bringing that service back to an operational state. So that's already gone live, and that's been well received. Power BI reporting, we're using that at the moment. We're using that for our performance management. But I'm really keen that we think about how we can make that more widely visible to our users, whether we have dashboards that we can put on our internet or something so they can see that, because I mean, it's got the capabilities. It's just up to us to decide how we're going to use that going forward. And then we also need to think about other service team modules. So for instance, I mentioned license management, software management, we can think about as well. So it's kind of just, I was really keen, we kind of started off with the minimal viable product and then got that 100% and then gradually expanded it into different areas rather than try and do too much too soon. I think it's really key that we get things up and running, happy with that, move on to the next step. And that's kind of the approach we've taken. It seems to be working quite well, and we're going to continue in that vein. Next slide, please, Sarah. I think that might be it. Yeah, that's it. I'm not sure how I did for time there. Might have overrun a bit, sorry.
No, you're all good, Dawn. That was perfect. Thank you so much. So
no problem.
I guess now comes the awkward bit that everyone hates. So if anyone does have any questions and they feel comfortable kind of coming off mute, we've got a few minutes now just to kind of pause and reflect. I know Dawn has covered a hell of a lot in that kind of section there, from kind of the experiences, the interfaces, snapshots around kind of the journey that they've kind of been through. Is anyone feeling brave and wants to come off mute? And does anyone have any questions at all? If not, we have got some time at the end as well, so we can kind of loop back around. If you're not feeling brave and you don't want to come off mute, that's perfectly fine. Please feel free just to throw some of those questions in the chat window, and what we can do is loop back around at the end and make sure we're kind of answering some of those. So yeah, if you've got any questions for Dawn, pop them in the chat window, or feel free to kind of come up off mute at the end. Can we show some of the reports, please? So I think when we come into the demo section now, we might be able to show some of those capabilities. So yeah, thank you, Colin, for that question.
Yeah, we will.
And yeah, recording will be coming out. So with that, I guess fire the questions into the chat window and we'll kind of wrap around with them at the end. And Greg, over to you.
Great, thanks a lot. And Dawn, that was tremendous. Thanks very much for sharing that with us and walking us through your journey, if you will, around ServiceTeam. Really appreciate that. So hi everybody, I'm Greg Singleton here with Provance, and joining me is Brian Field, who's a senior consultant and program manager here at Provance as well. And so we're going to give you a little bit of of insight into ServiceTeam and kind of build on what Dawn's already presented in her session, and kind of give you a bit of a look at the product as well. So I'm just going to provide a little bit of a setup for Brian and a bit of background on our company, and then we'll get to the demo quite quickly here. So we're a Canadian software company just outside of Ottawa, Canada, and we've been around for over 25 years now. And the last, 15 years or so of our business has been exclusively building IT service management, asset management type applications on Microsoft platform products or platforms. And in the last 10 years or so, that's been with Dynamics, and that's been more recently, of course, with the Power Platform and Power Apps, which is really what we're talking about today. So ServiceTeam itself as an application is built natively in Power Apps on the Power Platform, completely exploiting what the platform has to deliver, but of course delivering our core competency and expertise around IT service management and asset management and so on. And that's really what we're talking about. We're an add-on, if you will, or an application that adds value to an existing platform. And we've got hundreds of customers around the world, quite a few in the UK, of course, and across Europe, and in the US and Canada as well. And some of these names you might recognize: the City of London, of course, the City of Wolverhampton, who's joined us today as well, Microsoft, of course, and other names here that you may or may not recognize. But it's a diverse group, but quite a significant push into sort of local and regional government, not only in the UK, but in the United States, for example, as well, where we're seeing quite an uptick in this. And I think it's driven largely by the success Microsoft's having around the Power Platform and the promise that the Power Platform's delivering on, which is accessibility, scalability, flexibility, security, the low code nature of it. It's all coming together now into a single platform. And we know that our customers and the market itself has been for years now expressing a preference for kind of a best of platform approach, right? Let's buy a tool for this and buy a tool for that and knit them all together and worry about integration and all that sort of stuff. Those days are thankfully disappearing, and they're no longer necessary in terms of driving value around enterprise software. And that really speaks to the power of not only the Power Platform, but what we're doing as an independent software vendor on the platform, and bringing that together on again under the Power Platform umbrella. Strong cost performance and value, as Don kind of mentioned there. Integration, the ability to leverage skill sets across your existing investments in Microsoft technology, and obviously future stuff. We've got lots of stuff on the go, as everybody knows, around AI, and some really cool stuff coming down the pipe as well from Microsoft that we'll be able to take advantage of. And we've also seen a fairly significant shift in the competitive landscape of the market, where our customers are telling us that they're driving for more value and more self-control or self-management around their service management, not only for IT service management or asset management, but for enterprise service management in general. And I think that there's been some large investments made where customers haven't achieved the value, and the step up to do it on their own is quite significant. So they're looking for more efficiency, more accessibility for the investments that they're making. And we're getting that, certainly from a service team perspective. And that's really why, from a Provance perspective, we invested significantly back, probably starting in 2019 and releasing market in 2021, where we saw what was happening with the Power Platform and where Microsoft was going. Before ServiceTeam, we had Provance ITSM, which was built natively in Dynamics 365 as kind of an extension to customer service. But we saw an opportunity to develop, more innovative, more modern applications on Power Platform that made it easier to adopt, faster to adopt, easier to sort of self-manage and to self-customize or configure, et cetera. And the Power Platform does that. And of course, it is the world's leading low-code, or one of the world's leading low-code platforms right now. And we think that what Microsoft has invested in and what they've done, for companies like ours, is a big advantage in the market. So from a nuts and bolts point of view, we are obviously, built natively on the platform. We bring our kind of core set of capabilities from an ITIL perspective to the table. Your typical incident, problem, change management, service request management, service catalog knowledge, et cetera. All that capability, but building off of the platform services that Microsoft already brings to the table. So we're not a true SaaS application in the sense that we host your data, we manage the infrastructure, we manage the cloud environment, all that sort of stuff. All of that's Microsoft. It's in your Microsoft tenant, in the UK, for example, in their cloud environment, in their Azure data centers. And then, of course, that allows us to leverage, the security model and the roles of permissioning and all the codeless configuration and the really amazing reporting and so on. All of those capabilities come to us from Microsoft, but in an application that's sitting in your tenant in a Microsoft environment, and again, delivering, what we think is a very strong IT service management and asset management and enterprise service management capability. It all resides on the same Dataverse. So all the data that you're managing in other Power Apps applications, or maybe in Dynamics, or that you're leveraging to drive Power BI reporting from, et cetera. All of our data around the service management side and the asset management and so on, all that's in the same Dataverse. So all of a sudden you now have a corporate-wide, cross-departmental, cross-application data store that you can drive reporting off of. So it's not a data warehouse that you're managing like years ago. It's dynamic, it's almost real time, and you're driving, say, Power BI reporting off of it. So we're going to talk about that and show a little bit. I know there was a request earlier for us to touch on the reporting. There's other capabilities here I won't really go into, but we have the extensibility into things like Azure and Azure Active Directory and Azure DevOps and Azure Monitor and SolarWinds and the typical system center tools around configuration manager, operations manager, et cetera, and others that we provide as well, and more coming. So quite extensible as well, and as well, the Power Platform delivers a number of connectors through their connector library that you can take advantage of, where there's, I think, thousands now of apps or connectors that you can leverage. Okay, so we're going to touch on this a little bit from a demo perspective with Brian, and if I can get my slide to go. So Brian, it's your turn to shine, and let's have a little look at ServiceTeam here.
Sounds good. Okay, so what I'm going to do here today is show you basically where we started with Dawn and her team, and that is with the out-of-the-box implementation of ServiceTeam from a self-service portal perspective, excuse me, as well as the agent or resolver view that Dawn referenced as well. I'll try to cover as much as I possibly can here in the next 20 minutes or so. Likely we won't get to everything. There is a lot of capability in the application. We'd be happy to speak with you at a later date for some more information as well. But without further ado, on the self-service portal, and Dawn had mentioned again some of these things, and I'm just going to reiterate them. But things like announcements, just data that an agent or a service desk manager might add, showing things that are going on within the environment, with the hope that at least in some of the situations, like in a case of an advisory or an outage, that you're really going to deflect calls, right, from the service desk. So it's less of a burden to respond to perhaps frequently asked questions about items that are coming up, or yes, we're working on an outage, and here's what we're doing, and we're going to get you back up and running as quickly as possible, right? So it's about information provision and deflecting those calls away. I'm going to show you here, and I'm going to do it through the ability to simply create a ticket. Now, this is the out-of-the-box form for creating a ticket. It's very easy, drag and drop to add additional attributes or fields to the form. Almost every customer configures this in some way where they want to be able to get perhaps a little bit more information to help their agents resolve items more quickly. But what I want to point out here, and this is one thing that Dawn and team are still are in the process of adding, is the knowledge management capability, and the knowledge base and knowledge articles. So in this particular case, again, we want to provide this information to customers, but we want to deflect calls again. So hey, here are a list of articles, in this case one, that you might want to take a look at before you go ahead and click that submit button. If I open that article, now I can have a nicely formatted document with screenshots, links to videos, or other articles that might be related, or in the recommended articles area. I can jump to different sections in the document, and then finally, there's a built-in capability to rate the article and to provide comments. So a very nice way to be able to share information with those customers who very well might like to self-serve before they contact the service desk. So that's all built into the application. I can search for knowledge articles in a variety of ways here as well. This just happens to be one, which is more of a push where we're putting information in front of that customer. So I'll go ahead and finish this ticket. All right, so I'm going to provide some additional information. Maybe I have an error log or a screenshot, which I can choose to attach as a file. For those of you familiar with the service desk, of course, urgency and the impact in our model, and in many models in the in tools are going to determine the priority. Agent always has the opportunity to adjust that when they do process the ticket. So worst case scenario, this is giving you an idea of the sentiment of the end user. How important do they think this is to them when they're submitting that particular ticket? Now, quickly, when the ticket is submitted, here we'll be able to not only see that ticket, but I can then view the tickets. I'm going to jump ahead here in the interest of time. There we go. So now I can see the ticket. That's actually created an email that you can see here. Say, thanks for creating it. We've got it. We'll be back with you soon. You'll have some options then to cancel as an end user. I solved my own problem, I don't need this anymore, etc. Or at the end of the process, be able to indicate that you can close this ticket, that the resolution or the action taken fulfilled the request, and they're happy with it, and go ahead and close the ticket for me. Now I can see these tickets by looking at a grid view of everything that I've submitted, and get a quick view using an icon here of the status, right? So it's again, just a listing of everything that I have open. If I click the link, I can open the ticket and see what what we just looked at. The catalog here is where I would go if I want to submit a request for a new service or a change in a service that I'm already receiving. So you can see some examples here, and this does not have to be limited to just IT requests. It can be anything, right? It can be onboarding or offboarding a new employee. It can be related to asset management. It can be related to facilities, or really anything, right? Where it's not, although you'll hear us say service team IT sometimes, but it's really more than that, right? You can configure this for a more of an enterprise application and from an enterprise management perspective. I'm going to show you on here a simple example so you get an idea of how this would work. But basically, what we want to be able to do here is allow the end user to respond to some questions that we're then going to be able to review and be able to fulfill the request from. We don't want to burden them with a lot of other information. Just tell me these things, and then we'll go ahead and complete the request for you. Now, we have the ability, as you just saw, to expose conditional questions, right? So if this is non-standard, well, now you need to tell me why, and you need to have to provide a response because otherwise I won't know what to do. So I can say, I need access to Azure resources, something that might be a little bit different than just spinning up a VM for a project. When I need that VM, right? So you get the idea, a series of questions of a variety of formats, text, multi-line, yes, no, dates. We can bring back data from specific tables, things like that. So very easy process by which the end user may submit a request. So high level, that's the functionality there of the portal. Now let's change the perspective a little bit, and let's look at this from that resolver or the agent perspective. And the first thing I want to show you here is the Power BI reports that we have, and I'll show you a handful of them that we have all out of the box. That you can use straight away, or you can use them and as a starting point for your own reports. These are configurable, they're not locked down, you can do whatever you need. You can add your own Power BI reports too. anything that you really want to do. But we want to give you a starting point here to get going. So here we're looking at some of the basic attributes that you would expect to see on a ticket. How many do I have by priority? How many do I have by different statuses? Depending upon the nature of your work, how many tickets I have open per account or organizational element. Who's managing those from my agent perspective? Is it an individual or a team? So you get the idea. Some of those summary attributes that I can now look at as I'm going forward. Now you might want to look at, and one of the things that Dawn and her team looks at here, let me refresh, get some data there, is being able to see how the teams are performing with respect to service level performance. So how am I, how many tickets am I breaching with respect to my resolution count, or what's the percentage of tickets that are breaching, right? So, all of these are made available to you, give you that management level information at a glance, which I can now use to point me in the right direction of where I might need to make some updates to process or changes in how I'm operating my service desk, or identifying gaps that we need to fill to improve our level of service. Now there's another dashboard that's very specifically, this is not a Power BI dashboard, this is just a native platform dashboard, but it's shows numbers of active tickets for the individual agent. What do I have to do, with some visual indicators, that there's, something's happening with this, and the customer might have communicated with us. Here, this one's representing a VIP. Here, this one's representing a hot account. Maybe there's something going on very specifically in that organizational element. You want to make sure that you're addressing those. And then again, the priority. So all visual indicators to help you manage the tickets. Going down below, looking at the tickets that are assigned to my team, but not yet assigned to an individual, so I can manage those. And then on the far right are tasks. And both of these are different versions of that, but tasks that are assigned to me or tasks that are assigned to my team. Tasks are typically items that are associated to a ticket. So think about a scenario where, like an onboarding example, where you might have a single ticket, but you have multiple teams doing different things in order to complete that request. Setting up accounts, or the IT asset management team getting a computer, or security/facilities issuing badges, all different things that have to be done with respect to onboarding an employee. Now let's go ahead and have a look at tickets here. And this was one of the screenshots or something similar, I believe, to what Don showed. But now, perhaps as a manager, I can look at these tickets. This is everything that's active right now. I can filter these. These are Excel type views where I can focus in on different accounts, or maybe that I want to look at things that are for a specific service that I'm offering to the end user. Again, very, very oriented to and flexible to give you what you need, inclusive of adding your columns, or to Dawn's point, creating your own views or dashboards for your own personal use. Very easy to do, or sharing those then with others on the team, which is yet another option down here. All part of the platform, which we're more than happy to take advantage of. Now, let me have a look at, or let's take a look at the request that I submitted for the new VM. Now, if you remember, we only asked 4 questions, with inclusive of the conditional question. But what we have now is a fully populated ticket. And we do that through the concept of a ticket template. I won't go into all of the details here, but this is important because it allows me not only to set that basic data, so agents don't have to worry about it. We don't have to prompt end users for it. We can assign it to very specific teams, but now we have some other options here as well. We might, depending upon what we want to do, have an automation, right? Where maybe we, after it's approved, maybe we have a script which will create the VM for us, and we can do that. We might have an approval process that goes along with this, where it requires a manager approval or some level of approval before you can spin this up. Or you might have what's called an activity template. And these are those tasks that I was just referring to. Every time you do a new VM, there's one or more tasks that you need to do in order to fulfill that particular request. So lots of things that can be configured, all part of building out that service request process, and hopefully streamlining that process quite a bit so that you can move this now through the status, if you will, the flow from going when it's to assign to it's in progress. You can put things on hold and it stops the clock over here all the way through to fulfillment. Or in the case of an incident, it'll say resolved here, a little bit different terminology, but full engine here to calculate response and resolution target dates based upon the priority that is set. That's all. It's all data, all configurable. You don't have to code anything. It's there and it's in place. Now, the approval here is the way that works is if I get one, should have one here. Maybe I made a mistake in my when I was configuring this, but what we're doing here is there we go. I've got this admin request or request from the admin. It's just a service account that says, hey, Brian submitted a new service request. Here are the answers to the questions that he provided. What do you want to do? Approve, reject, and then identify why you've made your choice. All right, so a very nice way using Microsoft approvals, again, leveraging the power of the platform and the power of the tools to provide capabilities. Now, this one happens to be in Teams, of course. An email will also be sent to the individual approver. You can have multiple approvers, lots of different ways you can get into the approval process. But suffice to say, all that's part of, again, streamlining the overall ticket management process. Now, there was a question, and I'll take just a couple of minutes here to address part of it. We do have a service catalog. This is all data that you configure depending upon the nature of the service that you offer. Maybe it's internal IT support, so those services might be account management or hardware support and maintenance, software support and maintenance, messaging services, those sorts of very traditional IT oriented is what I'm listing there. But again, that can really be anything that you want. Now, there is, by definition, the CMDB is available here, and referencing here as CI. So think about a scenario where you're managing or somebody calls in and they say, hey, I'm having trouble with my computer. You can list their computer here. We can actually filter it based that list based upon who the contact is and which assets they have to make it easier on the end user. But basically now this CI is something that you can manage from a combination of sources, right? It can be from what we call a device CI, but it's the data that comes in from tools like Azure Intune or System Center Configuration Manager or other discovery tools, and relate that to if you're doing full true asset management from a life cycle perspective, from a financial perspective, from a contractual perspective, right? All of the traditional elements of ITAM are included in the CMDB capability and how you end up managing those assets. So,
Hey, Brian,
yeah,
I'm gonna give you.
yeah, no, I was going to wrap it up. So I noticed it clicked to 25 after. So anyway, that was a really high level view of what we can do here, but hopefully it gives you a bit of a flavor of the capabilities and some of the things that Dawn talked about, and just reinforcing some of those concepts. So Greg, there you go. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Great job, Brian. Never seen you so on time ever, so that's amazing. Thank you for that.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah. So I just, before we go to questions, I just wanted to summarize kind of what we heard and what we saw today. And I think I'll do that kind of in the context of what Dawn presented earlier, right? So Dawn talked a lot about their objectives and their experience with the current technology, and they were shifting away from, and what they were trying to achieve. And flexibility and adaptation was a top one. Security was a top one, right? So again, coming back to the power of the platform and what the platform delivers very strongly in the market. Cost and cost performance, and that's not just in terms of licensing, but that's in terms of carrying costs and maintenance costs and the skill sets and resources that are needed to kind of keep the lights on with the solution. Expansion capabilities. And on their own, their ability to do that themselves. The ITIL processes is important, and expanding that, and then rapid implementation. And Don touched on that as well. So there's a bunch of bullets on this slide that I deeply believe in, but I think Don said it best. And so Don, thanks very much for that, and appreciate your support. And Brian, big thank you for the demo as well.
Welcome.
So I guess with that, we'll open up. Does anyone have any kind of final questions? And then certainly from I guess that core kind of user, you'd then be looking at, depending on I guess the setup internally that you have and the preferences and how many apps they might be interacting with, either kind of the per app or the per user model. Were there any other kind of specific questions, or any other questions from the start of the presentation from anything that Dawn has presented at all? So we've got a specific one from Colin around cost per agent. Probably best for us to have a look at what you've got locked in on your enterprise agreement. That will sometimes impact kind of the licensing models and pieces like that. So what I'll do, Colin, is I'll ask your specialist to kind of follow up with you, and they can give you some costings based on your enterprise agreement and what that would kind of look like, if that's okay. Question probably for Brian and Greg around the communication side and linking up to Teams. Does the product link with Teams, apps for logging requests or seeking ticket history?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and it's one we're getting a lot of action on these days. So that's something that's on our roadmap. We do have some integration with Teams, as Brian demonstrated, with notifications and stuff like that. But a true Teams sort of application integration where you can open tickets and access knowledge and stuff like that is a work in progress right now here at Provance.
Perfect. Any other questions? We've got a minute left, so I'll keep an eye if there's anything else that comes through.
Any plans for AI and Copilot? Yeah, absolutely. Certainly on the AI front, there's a number of areas where we see AI playing a role, mostly assistive to begin. So things like supporting knowledge or access to knowledge, both for agents and for end users. And there's some other areas where we're in R&D right now, and actually working directly with Microsoft dev teams on this stuff as well. So yes, work in progress.
Brilliant. I guess with that, we are bang on time. So yeah, thank you all for your time. If you've got any further questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or any of the Provance team. There's an info@provance.com kind of email address you can kind of link up into. We will be sharing an email across to all of you with the link to the recording. So if you have anything specific there, please feel free to reach out to any of us. And then Colin, to your point, I've literally just pinged your specialist, so someone will follow up with you kind of directly. But if you need anything else, you know where we are, drop us a message. We're very happy to support in any way possible. And yeah, thank you, Provance team, and thank you, Dawn, for your wonderful presentations. And enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Hey.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.